Okay, there's two left to go, because having had the finale, this is the encore, the curtain call. Not sure. But yeah, this one is: do not be fooled by the fear campaigns that are simply run by the wealthy who need EU money to thrive. Let's split this into the 2 points that it's really covering and really saying. And let's take the last one first, as I tend to do. Simply run by the wealthy. Let's ignore the need EU money to thrive, because both sides have money men putting money into the campaigns. Both sides are backed by very rich people. Leave is backed by some phenomenally wealthy people and fronted by some phenomenally wealthy people. Remain is backed by some phenomenally wealthy people and fronted by some phenomenally wealthy people. So we then need to go beyond, well, they're in it for the money, because both sides are in it for the money, and we need to look at which side is less likely to be in it for the money in a way that's harmful to everybody else. Remain are in it for the money, but have to work within the stipulations of the environmental protections, the standards of goods and services, the treatment of workers, the human rights, all of those issues that are good in the EU. The Remain campaign's backers have to acknowledge that they will be working to make themselves even more wealthy within those conditions. So that means that yes, they want to make more money, but no, they can't cut your wages below the minimum wage to achieve it. They can't force you to work vastly more hours to achieve it. They can't destroy the environment to achieve it. They have to work within this framework of protections for you and I and the environment and the planet. Leave's backers, however, talk about cutting red tape. Well, what is red tape? What is the red tape they wish to cut? Is it a lowering of standards of goods and services? Cheaper materials, less quality control employed in goods and services? Is it workers doing more hours without paid overtime? Is it, an end to the Working Time Directive? Is it cutting back on welfare payments, working tax credits, things like that? What do they gain by coming out of the EU? So you hear a lot of people saying, well, why do these people want to keep us in? Well, let's turn that question around. Why would people want to take us out? Because it isn't for sovereignty. The money backers are not thinking, oh, Britain isn't sovereign enough, or, oh, Britain has too many immigrants. They are looking at their bottom line, just the same as the people the other side. So in what way can they benefit from us leaving the EU? And the one I have off the top of my head is, I believe his name is Tim Martin, owns Wetherspoons. So Mr. Wetherspoons does not like the minimum wage. He really does not like that it's gone up. He would quite like to see it go away. It cannot go away while we are in the EU. So what possible incentive does he have to put lots of money into a campaign to leave the EU? I'm sure if you put the 2 and 2 together there, you can probably come fairly close to 4. He clearly has a personal interest in leaving the EU, and it's not an interest that would benefit the people he works for, their conditions, their pay. He's not looking to leave the EU so that the price of your pint can be less. He's looking to leave the EU so that he can keep more of it. And that's capitalism in action, and that's why we have to have protections to stop capitalism from running too rampant over us. I don't fault him for looking out for his own interests, any more than I think you could fault somebody on the Remain side that was putting money in to look after their own interests. This is what both sides do. If you wish to fault them, you have to fault them equally, or you have to accept that people look after their own self-interest. Some people see that their self-interest is better served aligning with others, and other people disagree. I believe we are better working together. I think that as a people we are better protected and better served working together. I believe that we are able to move forwards with issues in society. We are able to move forwards with research in scientific areas. That's just the way I see it. I believe it's in everybody's best interest to work together. Other people see it differently. So that's the money men side of things. And to touch on fear, Remain have, to my mind, taken what is a very valid concern of the economy, and they have unfortunately not really veered off the path of talking about that. I'm aware that Labour have touched on rights, but they've really not said it loudly enough. And the main message has been that the economy will take a massive hit, and that will affect all of us for the worse. I believe that is true. Unfortunately, I do believe that they have taken worst case figures to present, and the worst case figures are possible. I'm not saying that the worst case figures are lies or myth or fantasy, but they are worst case. And they've put the worst case figures out, and people have just tuned out from it. It's too big, it's too apocalyptic. What they would have been better doing would be putting out the probably typical quite bad figures, because that would still be terrifying enough to anybody struggling to make ends meet. So there is fear, but it is fear grounded in reality, with an element of possibly exaggeration, certainly picking a worst case to present. But what have Leave got? Leave have got Nazi-esque posters, admittedly on the Farage side of things as opposed to the official campaign, but the official campaign is very happy to ride on the coattails of Farage's popularity campaign when it suits them, and then distance themselves quietly, sort of, after the event of gaining the popularity. So they have got Nazi-esque posters which are, well, the one I'm thinking of, I say posters, really that one, but which is accidental, coincidental. There's no way. PR people know what they're doing. That poster was, whoever put it together knew exactly what sort of memories they were trying to evoke. So you've got fear of Turkish people, fear of immigrants, fear of refugees, fear of... One thing going around is the EU forming a super state army, fear of conscription, fear of. There's a lot of fear, and it's fear. It's emotion. It's targeting emotion. It's bypassing the brain. The Remain's fear is hit the brain and say, think of numbers. Numbers, quite scary, bad numbers. Which is not necessarily the best way to run a campaign. But Leave are doing just be frightened. Be frightened of the enemy within. Be frightened of the enemy without. Be frightened of the enemy you didn't even know was an enemy. Just be frightened. And then we will save you. We will protect you. Which is, not an uncommon tactic to create a fear of threat, to then present yourself as salvation from said fear of threat. It works quite well for sort of getting people to support you into power, and then it turns out that actually they just had their own interests at heart and not yours all along. Again, this one's gone on, this video now has gone on quite long enough. It did cover 2 points that are very pertinent here, that both sides have played the fear card, both sides have been involved with lots of money, both sides have got significant financial backing from wealthy individuals. So I've tried to use examples where I can. Again, go and look this up. Turkey is not going to be a member of the EU within my lifetime, I suspect. But look up the reasons why. Look up what the actual Turkish visas would have meant, because I think they've actually kind of been shelved now. But go and find out who's behind what. Go and see who the prime money people are on both sides. Don't take my word for it. Go and find the independent financial bodies who are predicting various things. Go and find the experts from both sides and the independent ones and form your own picture. of this, because it's a really important thing. And just listening to one side or the other, just believing one campaign or the other, is not going to give you the balanced information, the balanced view that is needed to really make that informed vote on something that is so fundamental to the country, everybody in it, and our future.